Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. This is where accounting professionals just like you come to learn all the most efficient, powerful, abundant ways to grow their firm, sharpen their sales skills, and have consistent, increasing revenue year over year. I cover topics from pricing, sales, networking, objections, ideal clients, some marketing ideas, and really about how to increase your cash flow and profitability and set boundaries so you have the firm that you've always dreamt of. You're no longer giving away your time for free. You're no longer putting yourself on sale, and you are being paid for the value and worth that clients actually appreciate you for. So you'll learn tips and strategies as well as hear personal interviews from successful accounting professionals. This podcast will show you exactly how to create the firm of your dreams and the life full of abundance. Today, we have a very special guest. Our special guest is actually a current client at the Abundant Accountant, has completed the sales mastery course, has been doing coaching as well, and we're doing a case study style interview today. He is a solo practitioner, has a firm in New Jersey, also has an assistant who is his daughter, and has really overcome a lot of challenges, his wife being really ill and still being able to power through. So I'm very excited to bring our special guest today, Dave O'Brien, to the show. But before we invite Dave to the show, if you're like Dave, an accounting professional who he was feeling frustrated, he was stressed all the time, taking on every single client he couldn't say no to anyone because he was desperate for the revenue, and he wanted control over who he worked with and how much he could charge, and really didn't have a system. He didn't have anything to rely on to get these clients in the door to do all of what he wanted to do. So if you're like Dave and you're interested in learning how to detach from the emotional side of the sales process, maybe want a paradigm shift in this area and really see those objections like the client saying you're too expensive or, you know what, I'm price shopping. Any of those are objections. And if you want to see those more of like an asset to your business, then I invite you to have a call with us. Let's get to the root cause of really what's going on in your firm and your sales process, your sales conversations. And you can do that by booking a chat with myself or my colleagues over at theabundantcall.com. And once again, that's theabundantcall.com. And we'll really take a deep dive and see where we can support you. And if I believe we can help you, we'll definitely talk about that too. So now let's welcome Dave to the show. Welcome, Dave, to the show.
Thank you, Michelle. How are you today?
I am wonderful. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking out the time to join us on the Abundant Accountant podcast to share your journey, your story, be possibly an inspiration to many others. And you know, what you did took a lot of courage. It took a lot of strength. It took a lot of grit. It took getting really uncomfortable, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, if that makes any sense. But before we dive into today's episode interview, Dave is a past student of mine, current student, actually, current client. So we've still been working together. We met, I guess it was May of 2019, but can you share with all the listeners where you live, what your firm's all about, the services you mainly focus on offering, and maybe even when you started your practice and what your sales were prior to us meeting?
Sure. So I have a practice in northern New Jersey. I'm a sole proprietor. I have one associate and an assistant who also happens to be my daughter. And what I have been doing over the last couple of years and trying very successfully in doing is getting away from the compliance-based traditional accounting firm. My accounting firm 3 years ago was your typical, small firm, I do tax returns kind of thing. And I also would be one of the rare people that you would run across that not only did I do tax returns as a sole proprietor, I also would do some type of attestation work. So I would be doing either an audit or a review of the clients that I was working with. And that was the focus of how I was conducting my business and trying to get business. And as any one of your listeners' clients will say, is that that guy is usually a necessary evil and nothing more. All I
Yeah.
was doing was putting numbers into little boxes, basically, and the writing was on the wall for those of us who have been looking that that side of the industry is all going away, and to stay inside that box, I saw myself, not only was I a dinosaur, but I was going to become extinct very shortly.
An extinct dinosaur. Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Exactly. So what I, yes,
oh no, I was going to say, when did you start your firm?
I started my firm. Well, actually, I had partners in a firm that I started back in 1989, and that lasted about 21 years. And then in May of 2010, I began my own shop.
Got it. Okay. So, May 2010, you started your own shop. You realized that the writing was on the wall. You're going to be a dinosaur and be extinct if you just focused on, I do tax returns, I'm the small firm. And, that came to a shift in your career, in your firm, in your business. And that was just a very short 3 years ago. So, what were some of the biggest challenges for you, Dave, back then when you started to say, you know what, I've got to do something different? The writing's on the wall that, I can't be an extinct dinosaur and still be able to take care of my family and do all the things that you wanted to do.
Well, the biggest issue that I had, and again, a lot of accountants run into this, is I'm a great accountant. I'm creative. I'm smart, and I can do a great job of putting numbers into little boxes. But at the same point in time, I was a horrible businessman, and it was just something that I had always been with. I had, like I said, I had partners previously, and those guys just seemed to have referrals coming to them all the time. That might have been personality. It might have been, who they knew, whatever it was. But the fact of the matter was I just did not know how to sell accounting services. And even worse than that, the first time I spoke with Michelle about sales, she asked me the question, "What's your closing rate?" And I was like, "Well, I close every sale. Every opportunity I get that comes across my desk, I make that sale." And she said, "Okay, well, what do you get your price?" And I had to think about that for a minute, because the fact of the matter was I never got my price.
Hmm.
I always ended up doing it for what the customer would do, because, basically I was desperate. I wanted desperately to build my business, and I was just taking on lousy work for people that, very often were not people that, certainly not people that I would do business with now. And, I would end up in a place where I was delivering work for the sake of cash flow. And it was the worst possible place I could have been.
Yeah, and it probably felt like, you were getting taken advantage of all the time and that you were just getting plowed over by clients and that they were calling the shots, and it's like an energy suck and not even enjoying the work that you do anymore. So not only are you the guy small firm that does tax returns, we're also the goodwill of tax returns almost. And I know a lot of people sometimes, even gave it away for free, right? Friends, family, and they drove you nuts. So what was really the paradigm shift for you, the wake up call, the aha moment when you're like, I got to do something different. I cannot be an extinct dinosaur and keep going the way I've been going. Like, what was that shift? How did that come about for you?
Well, it came about through me doing an internet search. This was the starting point. I did an internet search for some type of automated tax plan. And I came across a solution for that. And I was so excited about it. I jumped onto a plane and got down to Washington, D.C. to attend a seminar. And the guy that was running it was talking about the artificial intelligence solution to accounting and tax returns. And I sat there dumbfounded with my jaw on the table, thinking to myself, in a couple of years, this is all going to be gone. And I've always said to my clients, like, I can't compete with H&R Block. I can't compete with TurboTax, and I don't want to. There's a reason that you need to come to me. And I was sitting at a seminar doing all of this soul searching because it hit me like a ton of bricks that I always say that to my clients, but in looking at any one of my given clients, they really don't need me. And I was thinking, well, how does that work? And most importantly, how can I change it? And I worked for the next couple of weeks just on putting together, a basic plan of becoming a specialist in the thing that I liked most, which is construction accounting, and the people I enjoyed working with most, which are construction contractors. And I just said to it, okay, how do I make the move now to become the go-to guy that these people need? And as I did that, the first thing that I did was I realized that the guy that was doing the presentation wasn't going to work for me. And I ended up with Dominique Molina. And when I sat in on a webinar that she had presented, I immediately thought, I've got to sign up for this. And I sent an email and I got a call back from this woman named Michelle Weinstein. And Michelle Weinstein told me, hey, look, this is the deal. This is the way it works. You can either pay this money up front or you can pay more money. And at the time it was considerably more money if I wanted to do it on a 3-month installment. And the fact of the matter was I didn't have enough money to pay for the course, and I didn't have enough credit to even put it on a credit card.
Wow, I even forgot that.
I was really strapped. I was really, really strapped. And one of the things that that you had asked me was during the phone call was, will you commit to doing, I think it was, 1 hour a day toward getting toward this goal? And I was like, I don't know who you are, but this just makes so much sense. And I'm going to make this commitment not only to you, but to myself. And when I did that, that changed the whole game. Wow. And if you recall, it was really funny because 2 months later, that happened in March of 2018, I believe. No, 2019.
It was actually January 2019. And you at the time had 56 business clients that you supported on a monthly basis.
But and by the way, I don't have half of those anymore because I fired them.
That's awesome.
So, I went out, I flew out to San Diego to attend the tax planning seminar that Dominique offers. And while I was there, you were there. And I remember I was saying, okay, great, I'll talk to Michelle at the next break. But you were leaving before the break, so I chased you out to your car.
That's right. You chased me out to my car. That was so funny. Yes.
Right. I introduced myself. I really, really need to talk to you. And, I signed up for your class as quickly as I could. And, it was a life-changing experience.
Yeah. So let's transition into the class. So we met, you enrolled in the 8-week sales mastery, or 8-module, I should call it, sales mastery course. That has the coaching element to it and a ton of work. Can you share your experience of, because you went through the first transition, and back then your goal for 2019, by the way, Dave, because I have it in the notes, 150,000 in revenue was your goal in 2019. What was the revenue you did in 2018? Do you recall?
I don't, but it was much higher than that. No, I'm sorry, 2018?
Yeah, 2018.
2018, I think that I closed out the year with 210.
Oh, okay. So
It
then it was,
wasn't, I mean, I had started the changes that I started making, paid off right away because I sold two tax plans that year or three tax plans that year.
yeah.
I got immediate hits after taking Dominique's course and going through, the sales class with you that year.
Yeah. And then in 2020, you did 316,000 in revenue. So let's talk about the revenue transition. Obviously, the increase, the complete 180 shift that you did. You fired half of your 56 business clients. I know 10 of the largest ones you had were about 80% of the revenue at that time. And really, when you think about the whole sales thing that had you run out to the parking lot to talk to me, I do remember that exact moment. It was at the Marriott in Mission Valley in San Diego. Uh, for those listening, like some of us don't even know we even really need a sales process. Like you start an accounting firm, you're a solopreneur, maybe you have a couple people that work for you. Like it doesn't even dawn on you that that's even something that you should probably have, because it's not like you signed up to be a 24/7 salesperson, right? You just meet clients and you offer work. So what was that for you, Dave? Like that said, you know what, I got to do something different. This is right now I feel X and I got to get to Y.
Well, the biggest obstacle that I had to overcome was that I was undervaluing my work.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was undervaluing my work, I also realized that my clients know that I was undervaluing I shouldn't say that they knew that I was undervaluing my work. I should say that they understood that my work and my time was cheap. So when I started working with you, one of the first things that you had talked to me about was, well, if you're still charging for your time, and we went through a whole conversation of what would your realizable rate be, what would your ideal engagement be, and things like that. And when I realized that I was, basically giving away my work, I had to tackle the problem of, well, what work could I offer my clients that I could say to them or in good faith be able to show them that, look, this is something that I do that, is a necessary evil part of my work. But what I can really show you how to do and what I've been trying to steer you toward are, what do your job cost reports look like? Do you really know how much money you're making on your contracts?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing about, your labor burden rate and how are you going about negotiating your insurance contracts and things like that? And what do your systems look like? And as I started going through this with my clients all the time, I had one of my clients, actually my largest client over in New York City, one day turned to me and he said, "You know what? I like this new Dave." Son of a bitch, it works. And because he's a cornerstone of my business in a lot of sense, but most importantly is he has a lot of resources for me to be able to say, hey, look, let's look at this system. And he'll say, well, I'll at least give it a try because Dave said I should do this.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the things that I've put him into with respect to systems, with respect to coaching, with all of these other solutions that he's gotten in front of him, the large majority have come from me, and he appreciates that. And let me tell you something, he never, ever hesitates when I say, hey, it's going to cost this much. There's a check in my hand literally a
Well,
minute
not
later.
cost. He's going to invest this much, right?
We can quibble over terms.
No, I got that.
But the key is that if I say, John, this is what we need to do, I can count on it being done. He may deliberated about it a little bit, but if he says that Dave says this, then I know it's true. And the thing about that is this was a place that I was trying to get to for the longest time. And the fact of the matter was that because I was such a bad businessman, I was standing in my own way of being able to accomplish this.
And
And what it all
Mhm.
came down to was you taught me the value of my work.
Yeah, it's a game changer. And
It really is. It completely changed my mindset because there were two things that you taught me. That was the real big game changer. But the other thing that you taught me that empowered me was the ability to say no. It's like, no, I'm not going to do this. I don't want to work for you. There's the door. Here's a resignation letter. Don't call me again. And
yeah, like the confidence to be okay letting someone go who doesn't see the value in your work. Because before, and I think a lot of us are so attached to just getting anyone we can, like, and trying to just work with everybody. Where now, I mean, now you work with the people who do see the value of your work and who pay you premium top dollar for that, and you don't have to work with as many people. So, I mean, because you've had some pretty huge success in the 2 years that we've been working together. You did class, you're in the ongoing coaching, but financially, your 2020 results was 316,000 in revenue, unless it was a little higher. That if that's not the final number, let me know. And I know you have a pretty hefty goal of getting to around the $500,000 mark, and you are all by yourself. And I think a lot of people think, oh, I got to have a team. I've got to do all this stuff, and I've got to have all these clients, and how do I manage it all? But I know you have a really very unique story where you actually had to step away for a few months, in the last year. Can you share with everyone, what you wanted to create for yourself previously, and now what's actually happened? Because you've done all this, right? Like you got the confidence and the ability to say no. You've generated the confidence to put a value on your work and stick to it and never let anyone walk all over you ever again. And you've done it fantastic, but ultimately this really made a big, huge, I mean, even with revenue growth, with what you went through, I think it'd be pretty impactful for the listeners to hear.
Yeah. So about 2 years ago, my wife became very ill, and we thought that she had epilepsy. But about a year later, what we found out that what she actually had was lung cancer. And she got very, very sick from the treatment for the lung cancer. And as a result of that, ended up in a hospital in New York City on a ventilator in the middle of this COVID issue. And it was the scariest thing of my life. Thank God she's great now and she's recovering well. But one of the things that happened during that period of time was I had to step away from my business for almost 2 months. And if I was in the situation or had not made the changes that I made 2 years ago or 3 years ago and started putting those into play, I would not have a business right now. And chances are I would never have been able to have stepped up the way that I stepped up to help out my wife. And I don't say that lightly. It's, I'm married to her. She's the love of my life. And I would do anything. As I always say, it's like I would learn how to walk on water for this woman. But the fact of the matter is if this was me 3 years ago, I would have probably buried my head in the sand and tried, just to deal with it the way that I was. I had gotten so much confidence going through this process of rebuilding my business successfully that I was on top of everything from the minute that she got sick. I found her the best specialist in New York City. As luck would have it, because of the stupid COVID issue, we were able to go in and out of New York City every day of the week to get her treatment, which normally would have taken me about 4 hours worth of driving a day. We were able to do it,
that's right. Yeah, no traffic.
it was unbelievable. But the fact of the matter is that all of all of the effort that I put into building my business, I didn't miss a beat during that 2 month absence that I had. I mean, I would go home and answer emails and things like that. But the fact of the matter is I was still closing deals while this was all going on. Not only was the work getting done, but I was bringing on new clients.
Yeah,
And
I mean, and that
I
took,
was upselling.
yeah, and I know, to not like, I mean, that took a lot of determination, right? And you were so brave to step outside of all these comfort zones, and the grit that you had to really put into it on the front end. But then this happened and you were financially stable.
The thing about that was that came very quickly. I was astonished at how quickly I was able to successfully put your sales techniques into place. Especially since it took, the going through the course and really preparing for it and everything, which I did a lousy job of. But at the same point in time, I paid attention and did everything that you told me to do. And it was amazing how quickly I was getting the price that I was asking for jobs. And these were from existing clients. Because one of the things that we didn't talk about, which I'll just say briefly, is most of the growth that I had in my practice was from upselling clients.
That's true. We haven't talked about that. Do you want to touch on that? Because most people think
Yeah.
that's like one of the biggest things I hear, Michelle. There's no way I can raise the fees to my current clients.
Nothing could be further from the truth, because all you have to do is start asking questions. Because the fact of the matter is I think that your traditional accountant, and I see this with my competitors all the time, my much larger competitors, is they're going in to provide accounting services or tax services, and they're never once asking, hey, what keeps you up at night? How can I help you with this? These are services that I can offer.
Yep.
Or one of the greatest things that I did with respect to my small business owners I still have a handful of what I call my legacy clients, that are clients that own small businesses, that I called them up one day and said, hey, I've been looking at the way we've been preparing your tax return for the last couple of years, and we're missing some opportunities. It might take a little bit of work, and it would have to be a separate engagement, but I think that there's probably ways here that I could save you some money, and maybe we could work things differently where it's not going to take you as much effort to do what you're doing. Does that sound like something you'd be interested in handling?
And they're all like, yes, sign me up.
and again, I just go back to what my client John said. I like the new Dave because everybody likes this. Everybody likes you asking them, hey, how can I help you? What can I do to serve you? And that was the thing, is like when this whole COVID thing happened, I was on board with PPP before anybody else was. I was talking to my clients, and my clients were saying, oh, let me call up this guy and ask him if he knows what you're talking about. And I'd get a phone call say, hey, could you just explain to him what's going on? Because he hadn't heard about this, or his accountant's not up on top of this. Wow. And when I did that, and I started exactly what you had challenged us to do, is like keep in touch with your clients, make sure that they've got this information, but just stay in constant contact with them all the time. And as I did these things, I got to tell you, not only was it lucrative, but it became fun, because I was really helping.
You were helping them. And, people like me, we don't know all this stuff. I mean, I do, because I have a lot of great clients and friends like you, but most business owners, they're busy in their business, just like how you were overwhelmed and working so much and buried and, figuring out how to make ends meet. So is every business owner. And that's why they hire smart, intelligent, genius people like you. So yeah, do you remember how much of the 316,000 in 2020 probably came from upsells just to current clients?
Oh, probably about 100,000.
100 grand. Wow. That's just incredible.
So the way that the first thing that I did to improve my practice was not tax planning. That filled a need that I had, and I'm still working on blowing that up. But the one thing that I had been involved in was Profit First.
Yeah.
So when I got involved with Profit First, and that's the way that I really started upselling people, was because I was telling people right off the bat, is like, look, I'm going to send you this book. I want you to read it. Give me a call. This guy discusses some great ways to manage your money. And I know that I've talked to you about some of these in a very simplified form, but this is a whole system that I'd like you to do. And son of a gun, I mean, it's like everybody that I spoke to, that I sent this book to, was like, let's talk more about this. I really like these ideas.
Yeah, I mean, you really help people's bottom line.
Well, that's easy.
Getting
you
them
don't
paid
realize,
first. Yeah.
But you don't realize, like, some of the people that I deal with, I have conversations and talk to them all the time about things like this. But I didn't realize to the level of which they were actually scared about
terrified
where their business is going. And then COVID came along, and they were terrified.
Yeah.
And there was Dave O'Brien coming along and saying, you don't have to worry about this. We got this. We're just going to continue down the road, and everything's going to be good. And everything's been good.
No, that's wonderful.
The last time around, if again, going back to what I was versus what I was now, I probably would have lost most of my clients, not because of the personal situation, but because I wouldn't have been the guy who was proactive, because I wouldn't have been the guy that had a solution for them to show them how to do all of these things. And when I showed up with all those solutions and the conversation and the calm voice telling them everything was going to be okay, I mean, I have people that are absolutely, that tell me all the time that they are indebted to me.
Wow. Well, that must feel liberating, freeing, like you're on cloud nine. Like I loved Care Bears when I was a kid, Dave. Like you're the Care Bear, just jumping from cloud to cloud. So kudos to you for putting in the hard work and doing all the right things and reaching out and running and chasing me and listening to what I had to say, even though I know a lot of it was probably terrifying at the time for you too, and frightening, and like, is she crazy? Yeah, I know. I've been told that by a few of you guys now. But is there anything that you would love to share with the listeners about your experience, or any other last words of advice? I think you've shared so much today, and it's been an honor to have you here, sharing your experience and all of your growth and challenges. This isn't easy. This is not for the birds. This is drastic changes. And is there anything else that you would love to share before we wrap up today?
Well, the one thing that I would encourage anybody that either has not gone through your system or is currently going through your system is that you've got a system that's proven and trustworthy, and you can rely on it. There were so many things that you talked about and taught me during this whole process. And recently I violated my red rope policy. For those of you who don't know what your red rope policy is you have a set of standards that says I will only do business with people that can meet these standards and expectations.
That's the ones where you feel confident you can say no to. So recently there was someone who you did not say no to.
I brought on a client because it was a recommendation from a long-term client and a guy who's a good friend of mine now. And he said, look, this guy needs your help and he needs a good accountant. And dumb old Dave jumped out of the box and said, sure, I can help this guy. And it was a nightmare. the guy called me names and accused me of things because I told him that he owed the government money. So
Wow.
anyway, but things like this, it's just when I trust your system and I do everything that I was taught through your system, through your 15-step process, it works. And it not only works, I've got it so ingrained to me now that I have to often go back and look at my 15-step process because I realize I'm skipping over steps that I really should be doing all the time, and things that, might come back and bite me in the butt later. So if you're going through this process or you're considering going through this process, what I would tell you is you can trust this process. It works. It works really, really well. It makes you uncomfortable. There are things that you're going to do differently, a lot of questions that you're not going to be happy asking originally. And I had to, I don't know if you can tell that I'm from Brooklyn, New York. Sometimes it comes out, sometimes it doesn't. But there are a lot, people from Brooklyn have a way of speaking and a way of, a particular jargon that they do. And a lot of the stuff that you were telling me to say is like, this isn't, I got to figure out how to say this differently. But I said it the way you told me to say it.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, it is a lot of work. It is not that easy. And it is uncomfortable, even for a Brooklyn, New Yorker. So thank you, Dave, so much for being here with us again today, sharing everything and your stories. It was an honor to have you, and it's an honor to have you as a client.
Well, thank you very much, Michelle. I appreciate that. And it's an honor to work with you.
Thank you all so much for joining Dave and I today on a great conversation on the Abundant Accountant podcast. I haven't done a case study in such a long time. And I always tell Dave, there's so many other accountants just like you who I talk to all the time, and really getting a grasp and a grip on the value that you can deliver and bring to clients and actually charge for it is the most powerful thing that you can do for yourself, and probably the biggest gift that you can give to yourself, because having the value of your work known and people and clients saying to Dave, you know what? I like that new Dave. It brings the level of confidence even to the client side. Dave's education is also increased, but the confidence is actually the part that speaks the most. And his ability to say no to those clients that no longer serve him, that drive him crazy. And he did share how recently actually violated his policy that he put into place, but quickly went right back to it. So many lessons learned. And if you're feeling a little stuck like Dave and, you're about to be extinct like the dinosaurs, I invite you to head on over to theabundantcall.com. If you were looking to detach from that emotional side of this whole sales process, meeting with clients, really want to have control over who you work with, how much you charge. And maybe right now don't believe it's possible, and that's okay too. That's completely normal. You are not alone in that. And, I do complimentary coaching sessions for about an hour to see what's possible for you and your firm. So if you're frustrated, stressed, and what you've been doing just isn't working anymore and you're kind of fed up, head on over to theabundantcall.com. Let's have a chat and get to the root cause of really what's going on in your firm. And thank you all so much for being here. It's an honor, and I will see you in the next episode.